Flying tonight, but for how much longer? The Seafront Airshow under threat after spectators fail to dig deep.
A peaceful protest, but now tough new laws to crack down on animal rights campaigners who go too far.
And a High Court ruling on the doctor who had an affair. The patient's verdict over the final decision on his future.
Hello from Stephen and me, 6 o'clock. Welcome to Anglia Tonight.
Well, also in the programme this evening, an invasion of hoverflies descends on the coast. But why is it such a bumpy year for insects?
First, for the second day, it thrilled huge crowds in glorious weather. But tonight, the cloud over the Lowestoft Air Festival's future appears darker than ever. Organisers were hoping spectators would donate £1 each to help secure the free event's future. But tonight it's emerged that less than £20,000 was collected from around 200,000 visitors on the first day. Well, our reporter Malcolm Robertson is at the air show for us this evening. Malcolm, is the show really likely to close?
Have you got sound? Go. Yes, good evening from Lowestoft. It is just possible that we may have seen the last air show, Clare. Inconceivable it would seem, because there are thousands of people over the course of the 2 days. We've had fantastic weather and we've had fantastic flying as well. Red Arrows today, truly spectacular. But it is just possible we may have seen the last ever Lowestoft air show. And the reason for that, quite simply, is that the public haven't supported it in the way they should have done. And I mean in terms of financial support. They've been asked for voluntary contributions, but they haven't actually supported it well enough to guarantee its future next year. For years, the famous Red Arrows have been stalwart supporters of the Lowestoft Air Show, delighting thousands and thousands with their skill and daring. But this could be their last appearance here. With the spectators urged to make voluntary contributions, the estimated 200,000 here yesterday paid less than £17,000. So do the public really want an air show? Maybe they don't want the air show if they're not prepared to put their money where their mouths are and where their feet are.
Well, that could be a conclusion, couldn't it? I mean, we're working very hard to look at next year's air show, to look at how we fund it, to look at all the possibilities that go with it. And but it's got to be something that everybody wants, not just as a free day out, quite honestly.
The air show's always been backed by European funding, which runs out this year. And with an expected shortfall of £40,000, it was hoped visitors would help offset the loss by paying £1 each.
They won't put £1 in, yet they'll quite willingly spend £3 up there on a ride for 30 seconds, and yet £1 here will give them 2 days full entertainment for them kids.
I think they should make a point in being in every entrance, you know, and just not standing there with the buckets, but shaking them, and more or less going up to people and say, you know, you're here, would you like to be here next year?
That's very sad, because unless they get the backing, we're going to lose it. This is going to be the last year.
Today there were extra collectors on the promenade, hoping to generate more revenue than yesterday.
Not allowed to shake our buckets to do that, because that's technically begging, so it's verboten. So you have to say, would you like to make a donation, or, you know, just to try and gently approach people.
For those involved in the displays here, the loss of the Lowestoft Air Show would be a serious blow.
It's a great show. The nice thing about these seafront shows is that there's no entrance fee. People come along, they see not just displaying aircraft, but all the stalls along the front. And people that wouldn't necessarily be that interested in displays, those people that go to actual air shows, come along and they get to experience a little bit about what we do.
Tonight they'll be analysing whether it's worth carrying on next year. There's no doubt about the interest, but it seems the public are a lot less interested when it comes to help paying for it.
So, Malcolm, I hope you can hear me loud and clear now. Disappointing revenue, definitely. What else can you tell us?
Yes, we've had one or two problems battling against various other sound systems, but yes, I can hear you fine. Well, it is obviously all down to public support. Now, in the past, this show has been run by Waveney District Council, but next year, if there's to be a show, it's to be run by a management trust. Now, let me bring in the chairman of that management trust, who's Paul Bayfield. How disappointed are you with the public's response?
We're not really disappointed. We didn't have any expectations.
But 200,000 people were here yesterday and you got £17,000.
Yes, indeed, but that's never been done before. It's never been tried before. We've learnt many, many lessons, and should this management trust be up and running for next year, then I'm sure we can build on that. We see that as a positive rather than a negative response.
So do you think we've seen the last Lowestoft Air Show?
No, I don't think we have. I think the positive responses that we've had today have been absolutely phenomenal in terms of volunteer trustees, in terms of goodwill. We've just had a phenomenal response, so I would like to think that's not the last one.
And clearly there's the interest, because there's been an awful lot of people, 400,000, but maybe they don't want to pay for it.
Well, possibly, but we've had 2 days of fun-filled, action-packed fun, and everything has been happening here these past 2 days, and maybe they don't want to pay for it, but it's so good for the town, so good for the area, it must carry on, the show must go on.
I was going to say, what would it do to the town if you didn't have the air show?
It would be sad, because of what is the expertise, the organisational abilities, everything that's been achieved over these past 8 years, and I think everybody would miss it.
OK, Mr Bayfield, thank you very much indeed. So that's it from the Lowestoft Air Show. I have to say, it's the first time I've ever been here, and it'd be a great pity, as far as I was concerned, if this was to be the last one.
Thank you very much indeed, Malcolm.
Next tonight, tough new measures are to be introduced to crack down on animal rights extremists. The idea to help protect people who work at animal testing labs like Huntingdon Life Sciences in Cambridgeshire. The company's been the subject of a sustained and sometimes violent campaign by protesters over the years. Today, the government announced new laws to crack down on intimidating behaviour. Piers Hopkirk reports.
A noisy but peaceful protest today by the campaign group Stop Huntingdon Animal Cruelty, targeting a company near Cambridge they claim's a customer of Huntingdon Life Sciences. Today's announcement, though, seeks to target those activists who turn to more extreme measures, like intimidation and violence. Some staff at HLS have had their cars set on fire. The managing director, Brian Cass, was attacked with pickaxe handles. This former employee, who wants to remain anonymous, was another who suffered.
For a long time, all I had received were threatening letters and abusive phone calls, nuisance phone calls in the middle of the night. And then on a Thursday morning, I was just taking my dog out for a walk before I came to work. And I found that my house and my cars had been attacked. I had graffiti sprayed on the wall of the house. Both of the cars had 2 tyres punctured with a screwdriver or something of that nature, and graffiti was sprayed over the cars with slogans like puppy killers, killers, and things like that.
Can you tell me what effect that had on you mentally?
Now I find myself watching for any car that loiters near the house or in the road. Any unusual noise in the middle of the night affects me. So my sleep has suffered since. Some nights are better than others. But yes, I'm very aware of what's going on outside the house now, and there is always the constant fear that the house will be attacked again.
Huntingdon Life Sciences is Europe's largest contract research organisation. It's been the subject of a sustained campaign by animal rights campaigners because it uses animals in some of its testing. Today's new measures include making it illegal to protest outside people's homes where it may cause intimidation or distress, making it an arrestable offence to return to someone's home after being found guilty of aggressive behaviour, greater coordination to catch extremists who break the law, and tougher sentencing for those found guilty.
We are not denying the right for people to protest, but, you know, with the right to protest comes some responsibilities as well. And this is not about taking away the right of free speech. I acknowledge that there are people out there who are totally opposed to the use of animals in research. I respect their opinion. I might not agree with it, but they have to do that within the confines of the law. And what we've got here is something different. We have got people carrying out concerted campaigns against individuals and their families, people who are doing nothing wrong in the law, people who are working for organisations who are carrying out their work in full cooperation with the law which I would say is the most rigorous in the world in regards to animal research, and still are being hounded. And I don't think that's acceptable.
Is it enough? Well, I think that we could have given a longer list of changes that we would like to have seen. including making it available to all directors of companies that they can have confidentiality of their home address, greater protection for particularly small shareholders of companies, greater control of websites, things of that nature. And I would like to think that in the future we still can see the prospect of a single piece of legislation which embraces all of these various aspects of extremist activity.
Protesters from the campaign group Stop Huntingdon Animal Cruelty say they only protest within the law, but fear the new measures may backfire.
If it does affect our campaign, I can guarantee one thing, it'll drive more people underground and more people take direct action. As soon as they change the law that stifles legitimate protest, more people take direct action. That's a fact.
Despite today's announcement, campaign groups like Stop Huntingdon Animal Cruelty say nothing can take away their right to peaceful protest. And they vowed to go on campaigning until Huntingdon Life Sciences is closed down for good. Piers Hopkirk, Anglia News at Cherry Hinton near Cambridge.
In another development today, a judge at the High Court upheld planning permission for a primate testing laboratory at Cambridge University. The protesters said the decision was perverse, unreasonable and unfair. They'd accused the Deputy Prime Minister, John Prescott, of making his mind up about the laboratory before a proper public inquiry. But the judge said the decision follows government policy. The project has been suspended but has planning permission for another 5 years.
A doctor who had an affair with a vulnerable female patient has been told he got off lightly. That was the verdict today from a High Court judge called in to review the punishment given to Dr Anthony Leaper, a GP from Clare in Suffolk.
Dr Leaper was put under supervision by the General Medical Council back in February, but today the judge said he probably should have been suspended instead. Simon Newton reports.
As they've done ever since his affair hit the headlines, Dr Anthony Leaper's supporters sprung to his defence today, outside the surgery in Clare where he used to work.
We're absolutely delighted at the ruling today. We feel it's a victory for patient power. We know that he's an outstanding doctor. We want to make sure that he gets back somewhere in this area, and hopefully that will happen sometime in the future.
Dr Leaper admitted serious professional misconduct before the General Medical Council in February. They didn't strike him off, though. Instead, they said he could continue working, but only under the supervision of another doctor for the next 2 years. But these people, members of a new watchdog body set up by the government after the Harold Shipman scandal, thought that was too soft. They took the case to the High Court, arguing that the public needed protecting and that Dr Leaper should have at least been suspended.
The hearing was told that Dr Leaper had pursued an inappropriate emotional and sexual relationship with Mrs A between March 2002 and February last year. Despite becoming involved with one of his patients, he'd continued as her GP, telling her on several occasions not to tell anybody about what was going on.
Today, a High Court judge said the GMC had been unduly lenient, but he also said it was now too late to do anything about it. Even so, the watchdog which brought the case welcomed the ruling.
What this does is send out a very clear message that suspension is the minimum sanction that should be applied in this type of case, which the High Court judge said was a bad case of its type.
Dr Leaper is now practising part-time at a surgery in Thetford and is back with his long-term girlfriend. His supporters have gathered more than 2,000 signatures demanding he's reinstated and have enlisted the help of Suffolk South MP Tim Yeo. Health Trust officials say Dr Leaper can return and practice in Suffolk if he wants, but the conditions imposed by the GMC mean finding a job may prove difficult. Simon Newton, Anglia News, Clare.
You're watching Anglia Tonight. Still to come, looking ahead to the weekend weather. Can this warm spell last?
Plus, if you love the beach, don't miss our guide to What's On.
Where better to be on a glorious summer day, and we'll tell you how you can take part in a fascinating seaside treasure hunt right here.
Coming up on tonight's ITV Evening News, Crackdown, new government measures to protect scientists from animal rights extremists.
Plus, Zara's fall, the Queen's granddaughter in a horse riding accident. Those stories and more at 6:30.
First, more news. And the Norfolk and Norwich University Hospital has set a target of cutting £15 million out of its budget by the end of the current financial year. It's the latest blow for the flagship PFI hospital, which was recently reduced to 1 star in the government ratings. Staff are being asked to make efficiency savings. The Hospital Trust says the cuts can be achieved with no NHS job losses, but it will cut back on agency staff.
A man from Norwich has been found guilty of murder at Norwich Crown Court. Thomas Cusack, who's 40, was charged with stabbing 25-year-old Danny McGee in the neck at a house in Magpie Road in November last year. Today, Cusack was given a life sentence for the murder.
A student who tried to take a replica gun on board a plane at Stansted Airport was told today he'd escaped prison by a hair's breadth. Sean O'Connor, who's 25, was found with a replica pistol in his bag when he tried to board a Ryanair flight to Londonderry in January. At a hearing today at Chelmsford Crown Court, O'Connor was ordered to serve 200 hours of community service.
Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles were out and about in Norfolk last night. As they arrived at St Peter and St Paul Church in Swaffham, the couple stopped for a quick word with the royal watchers who'd gathered to see them. They are attending the first of 3 concerts at the church, celebrating its 550th anniversary.
There's been a U-turn by Saffron Walden Hospital which banned the WI from baking cakes for patients. Managers had decided homemade cakes posed a health risk because WI members' kitchens don't go through their health and safety checks. But Uttlesford Primary Care Trust has now lifted the ban. They say any risk is greatly outweighed by the pleasure the cakes can give. Hear, hear, I say.
Quite right too.
Yeah, now, if you've been out to the coast this week, you may well have noticed some unwelcome little visitors buzzing about.
Yes, it seems there's been an invasion of hoverflies, making life unpleasant for people at the seaside. But why are there so many and where do they come from? Well, we sent Timothy Evans to investigate.
It's hot, it's humid, it's heaven-sent weather for hoverflies. There are suddenly thousands of them. At places like Hunstanton on the Norfolk coast, though, they're unwelcome visitors.
They're just there, all over the place.
They're terrible. They're ghastly.
But they're very irritating, aren't they? God.
I want to whack them all.
The mild winter is just one reason why there are so many hoverflies around at the moment. The main concentrations are to be found on the coast. Hunstanton and the Norfolk coast have seen a particularly large influx.
Absolutely awful. They're everywhere. You can't move without them being around.
They're after me ice cream. They're in your hair. They're in your glasses.
It's terrible, horrible. They're itchy and everything.
I went to consult an insect expert, Tony Irwin, curator of natural history at Norwich Castle Museum. He's been studying the hoverflies at close quarters in his own back garden. So are their numbers significantly up this year?
Yes, there are lots around at the moment. Many of them are homegrown hoverflies that are bred in this country, but also the numbers are supplemented by very large numbers of insects coming in from the continent.
On this shrub alone, there are at least half a dozen different types of hoverfly. They're busy gathering pollen and nectar, but they won't harm the shrub, and they aren't harmful to humans.
No, absolutely not at all. Even though they look like wasps, being these black and yellow stripes, they're completely harmless.
They may not be good news for people on the coast, but hoverflies are good news for gardeners. You see, hoverflies eat aphids, so maybe this summer these roses will be safe. Timothy Evans, Anglia News, Norwich.
Well, staying with things weather-related, it's time for the forecast, and, well, do you know, frankly, I'm concerned, because I've seen what you're hiding out of view.
Indeed. Well, it's a little bit unsettled here on the roof. It's not actually raining, but it was a few minutes ago, and it's the kind of feeling that you'd imagine in a rainforest. It's incredibly warm, incredibly close, but as you can see, we have had a few showers, and there are some thick clouds around as well, as you can probably see behind me. But if we have a look at the day, you can see that we are going to be seeing some reasonably more sunny spells, I think, over the weekend. More scenes like this, not wall-to-wall sunshine, but certainly some really good spells of it here at Great Notley, close to Braintree in Essex earlier on. The odd shower appearing here and there, but largely dry, lovely and warm. Highs well into the 20s once again. High pressure continues in control this weekend. The best of the brightness well inland. That's good news for the various events taking place this weekend. Here's a couple of them. As you mentioned earlier, the Worcester Festival takes place this weekend. A cricket competition happening in Rumborough tomorrow, and the Kingsland Festival ends on a musical note this weekend as well. Now, do be careful if you're going to the beach this weekend. There could be a little bit more in the way of cloud cover. Keep an eye on the forecast. They start tomorrow at 12:30. Starting again. Back to you.
She's armed and dangerous. Thank you, Becky. More news. The place where Ian Huntley lived when he was a caretaker at Soham Village College has been grassed over. 5 College Close in Soham was gutted during the search for forensic evidence after the murders of Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman 2 years ago. It was knocked down in April. The girls' families and local people have decided that there will be no memorial. The site now blends into the grounds of the school.
Norfolk's largest village festival is underway in Worcester, with around 30,000 people expected over the weekend. The highlight of today's entertainment was a children's football tournament. This is the 39th year that the small village in North Norfolk has been transformed for the event. Today, in sweltering temperatures, many people enjoyed demonstrations of traditional crafts.
A lot of the people come every year. Indeed, I have spoken to people who come all 3 days every year because they just like being here, and you need more than one day to see everything that goes on.
Now, campfires, sing-songs and some outdoors adventure. It can only be summer camp, and this weekend scouts and guides from all over the world will be gathering in Essex for a huge summer jamboree.
Well, more than 6,000 children will be heading to a farm near Clacton for the event. Wendy Pike's been having a look at the preparations.
Setting the stage for a mammoth summer youth camp. More than 6,000 scouts and guides from all over the world are due to descend on this farm near Clacton for the Essex International Jamboree.
Most importantly, we've got people from over 20 countries coming through to Essex. They're able to camp together, learn about each other, work together, play together and really make friends, and in most cases that last a lifetime.
It's taken volunteers about 3 weeks to turn the site at Kirby Lissoken into a temporary village with fast food restaurants, banks, cinema and a chapel. For the first time in the event's history, there'll be a giant internet cafe, so youngsters can easily keep in touch with home. With so many mouths to feed, the camp even has its own supermarket. This wall of supplies is just for the weekend. Youngsters are coming from 24 countries, among them this group from Oslo.
Going to be fun, I think.
I don't really know what's going on this week, but I think it looks very promising.
They can expect a week of exciting entertainment and activities. Whatever happens, the organisers will no doubt be prepared, and it should be a lot of fun for everyone. Wendy Pike, Anglia News, Kirby Lissoken.
So sports news now, and a blow for Norwich City, whose new midfielder Youssef Safri may not be ready for the start of the season. Safri, a Moroccan international who was signed from Coventry over the summer, underwent an operation yesterday to clear up a slight infection that came about after a hernia operation earlier this year. He'll miss tomorrow's friendly against his old club, and it's uncertain if he'll be fit for City's first game against Crystal Palace on August the 14th.
Well, the football season's only a week away for Ipswich Town, but today at Portman Road there was a match with a difference.
Well, the local media took to the hallowed turf. Playing his part for Anglia was Dan O'Hagan.
It's a walk normally only players get to make. Out of the dressing room and onto the pitch at Portman Road. No crowd today, and maybe that was just as well. In the orange corner, the gentlemen of the press, taking on the blue shirts of the club's sponsors. In goal for the media, myself, another Anglia man bolstering the defence, the heroic Donovan Blake. At half-time, the sponsors led 2-1. This the first goal, and here's the second. Both giving, I think you'll agree, the goalkeeper no chance of saving. Playing on a pitch like Portman Road, a rare luxury for players normally used to playing on local parks. Anglia's brave men of the sports desk took a breather for the second half, and the media team fought back. These 2 goals putting some gloss on the scoreline, but unable to prevent a 5-3 defeat.
The surface was a lot better than I'm used to, and I think it actually put me off my natural game. There not being any bobbles and balls bouncing up halfway up your knee and things like that.
A bit warm though, wasn't it?
It was a bit warm, yeah. It was sort of African Nations Cup type conditions, I think, yeah.
Great way to spend the Friday, better than being in the office, that's for sure. And a lovely surface around here. Much better than the grounds I'm used to playing on, like Phil says. Bubbles and all that sort of stuff, and this is brilliant.
Enjoy is a funny word. Endured it, I think. But yeah, it's good. It's good to get out there.
Handshakes at the final whistle. Any watching talent scouts had long gone. So the media team beaten comprehensively 5-3. We all like to think we can play. The evidence on show today would suggest otherwise. When my phone rings next, I don't think it'll be Joe Royle or Nigel Worthington. Dan O'Hagan, Anglia News at Portman Road.
Unlikely, but at least it proves they don't just watch the game.
Didn't Donovan look sweaty?
No comment. We're only into week 1 of the summer holidays, but if you're already running out of ideas of things to keep the kids busy, then we might be able to help.
It's time for our weekly guide to what's on across the region. This week, Sasha Williams reports from Southwold.
Now, Southwold is always a pretty good place to come and relax on a summer's day, but if you come to the beach on Sunday, there'll be quite a bit of activity. Around 400 children are expected to turn up to take part in a rather unique local competition. It's called the National Amber Hunt, and all kids under the age of 14 can take part. Basically, you come along to the beach and look for clearly marked pieces of amber, but it won't look anything like that. That is 30 million years old and is the largest piece of amber ever to be found in the UK. In fact, it was found just a mile down the coast. Anyway, you take your smaller pieces of amber to be registered, and then it gets really interesting. And to tell me all about it is Robin Fonnell, the organiser. Robin, what happens then?
Well, you're right, Sasha, it does get more interesting because we allow the children to keep the piece of amber they found, and then we give them a camera, a proper camera, not a disposable one, and we give them 3 weeks to go off and photograph what they consider to be beautiful, exciting, interesting in nature along the Suffolk coast. And we get some fabulous shots, we really do. The imagination of these youngsters it knows no bounds.
And good news for the winner. The top prize in the competition is worth £150. Can't be bad. Still in Suffolk, and you can expect to see plenty of these fellas in Drinkston near Bury St Edmunds on Sunday. It's the 30th East Anglian Donkey Show, the only one of its kind in the east of England. It starts at 9 o'clock and there'll be dozens of in-hand showing classes going on all day. And there'll be more farmyard animals at Norfolk's largest village festival this weekend. It's the annual Worsted Festival, and as well as the animals, there'll be tens of thousands of people turning out to see craft fairs, ring displays, vintage cars and traction engines. It started today and lasts until Sunday. And if you're looking for something similar in Essex, then make your way to Fingringhoe Ranges near Colchester. Their village fair has been going for more than 70 years and usually draws crowds of up to 3,500. That's from 10 till 4 on Sunday. Finally, down the road in Colchester, there's quite a musical weekend in store. It's Party in the Park weekend, which starts tonight with a concert of traditional proms music and fireworks, and continues tomorrow with more contemporary tunes. The outdoor concert in Castle Park will include appearances by a tribute band singing songs from Busted, Robbie Williams and the Bee Gees. Well, that's it from Southwold. Have a great weekend. Quick reminder, the Amber Hunt kicks off at 10 o'clock on Sunday. Now all I've got to do is find out if they can make this into a pair of earrings for me.
Big pair of earrings. Well, plenty to do, but what mums, the Region Over, will be wondering is whether the weather's going to be up to it.
Absolutely. I tell you who has the answers. That's Becky Mantin in the weather studio.
Thank you. Hello again. Well, what a way to end the week. We've seen some lovely warm conditions, plenty of sunshine as well. Just a few showers cropping up in places, but generally under high pressure. It really has been a lovely end to the week. But as you can see, we do have low pressure just skimming the North Sea there. That's given some thundery bits for them. It's also very mild, very moist air, and that's just ripe for that low overnight cloud to develop tonight and indeed on Saturday night as well. So I do think it's going to be quite a misty, foggy sort of picture towards the eastern coast over the weekend. But I think most of the time that sunshine's going to burn off that picture and leave us with plenty of brightness. But the best chance of brightness is certainly going to be across those inland parts over the weekend, and that's where they're going to be the best of the temperatures as well, well into the 20s. Let's get the detail then. Starting with this evening, as you can see, it's a very pleasant evening for most of us here in the east of England. Just a few chance of showers in places, but any showers dying out as we move through the night. It's going to be a fairly settled night, but as I mentioned, that low, misty sort of cloud developing and quite mild temperatures up at around 14 Celsius. Now, looking ahead to the picture for tomorrow, as I mentioned, that misty low cloud really taking its time to burn off, especially from the coastline. And I do think for the afternoon, the best chance of brightness is going to be across those inland parts. Generally dry as well, just the risk of a shower in places, but the best of the temperatures as well will be across those inland parts, around 25, even 26 Celsius. But as I mentioned, we could see a rather more cloudy picture towards the coast, but brighter at times. Looking ahead to Sunday, once again, we're going to have that misty low cloud developing on Saturday night, taking its time to burn off on Sunday. But once again, the best chance of the dry and bright weather will be across the inland parts, the best of the temperatures as well. Always a little bit cooler towards the coast in that onshore breeze, around 18, 19 or 20 Celsius, I think, is pretty accurate. Now, looking ahead to the 5-day forecast, and it continues pretty good into next week. Monday is looking to be another fine and dry day with a high of 26 Celsius, quite mild overnight, but becoming more unsettled for Tuesday and Wednesday, as you can see. But don't worry too much about that. Enjoy the weekend because it is going to be warm and bright.
The Pollen Count, sponsored by Benadryl.
Well, despite the fact that we're going to see plenty of bright weather over the next few days, those pollen levels are still going to be moderate or even low there towards the coast in that developing sea breeze. That's because we're coming to the end of the grass pollen season, and that's good news for hay fever sufferers. Have a lovely weekend.
Do you know, I think I'm going to make the most of that sunshine and go to the coast this weekend. What
Yeah.
with Malcolm reporting from Lowestoft and Sasha at Southwold, it's given me the bug.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, that's it from us for this evening. It's over to Andrea Catherwood and Bill Neely in London for the national and international news.
Targeting terror, the animal rights extremists in the sights of the law. The government announces new laws and says the intimidation of scientists must stop. The activists warn we'll go underground.
Also tonight, on trial, the Soham detective accused of lying over indecent images of children. Red alert, the new warnings that could save thousands of lives as temperatures soar. And it's a royal knockout. Zara's tumble after an argument with her horse.
Good evening. They intimidate, smear and terrorise in the